Hey everyone, welcome to your deep dive. Ready to go deep. Today, we're diving into the world of information networks, how they shape reality, and what it means for us with, AI on the rise.
And we've got some seriously thought-provoking material to unpack. We're talking excerpts from Yuval Noah Harari's Nexus.
Yeah, that book really got me thinking. It's amazing how Harari connects, ancient myths and carrier pigeons and even bureaucracy to this big picture of information networks.
Absolutely. It's about how we humans use information to organize ourselves, which can be a good thing or, well, not so good.
So true. And one of the things that struck me was how Harari challenges how we even define information. We usually think about it like, is this true or false? But he suggests there's more to it. It's about connection.
Exactly. Linking things together, whether it's ideas, people, even entire societies. Sometimes that truth part almost takes a back seat to the connections being made.
Okay, that's a bit mind-blowing. Got an example?
Think about astrology. Scientifically accurate, debatable. But for centuries, it's brought people together, influenced decisions, shaped whole belief systems.
So something doesn't have to be true to have a real impact as long as it's creating these networks. Information always has these ripple effects, even if we don't see them.
Exactly. And Harari uses this great example, the story of Cher Ami, the WWI pigeon. You familiar with that
Oh
one?
yeah, wasn't it something about a lost battalion? And a heroic pigeon delivering a message?
Right. Cher Ami supposedly saved almost 200 soldiers by delivering a message while super injured. It's this powerful story, right? Shows how brave animals can be in war.
Absolutely. But didn't Harari suggest there was more to the story?
Much more. Turns out, while Cher Ami was real and played a part in the war, the story's been embellished over time. Details exaggerated, timelines adjusted, a more compelling narrative was crafted, let's say.
Wait, so they just made it up?
Not necessarily intentionally made up, but the information, the story, evolved. It served a purpose. The embellished Cher Ami story, it boosted morale during a brutal war. It helped people make sense of the sacrifices being made.
Wow. So it's not just about if the pigeon delivered a message, but how that story, even if stretched, connected people to a larger narrative.
Exactly. Even if not totally accurate, false information can shape our understanding, influence how we act.
So what does that mean for us? How should we be thinking about information if we're trying to, be more discerning?
Be critical. Look beyond the surface. Ask, what is this connecting and why?
So fact-checking isn't enough. We need to think about the motivation behind the information.
Yes. Who benefits from this connection and what might happen because of it? Those are questions we should always ask, especially now with how fast information spreads.
That's a good point. It's not just, is this true? It's about the wider impact. Okay, so information is about connection, but Harari takes it a step further. He says stories don't just connect, they create entirely new things.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Harari argues humans are unique in our ability to create and believe in, get this, intersubjective realities.
Intersubjective realities. Okay, got a bit. That sounds a bit intimidating. Break that down for me.
More complicated sounding than it is. Think about money. It has value because we all agree it does, right? We use it to trade. But money, it's just paper or, numbers on a screen.
You're saying it only has power because we collectively decided it does.
Exactly. Not an objective truth like gravity. It's intersubjective. It only exists because enough people believe in it. And it's not just money. Nations, religions, corporations, all examples.
Wow, okay. I'm starting to see what you mean. These huge things in our lives, they only exist because we agree on their meaning, their value, like a shared illusion with real power.
Exactly. That power comes from those networks of belief, those shared understandings that stories create.
So stories are the building blocks of our reality.
In a way, yes. And Harari uses this great example, the Jewish Passover story.
Okay, what about it?
The Passover Seder, it's not just remembering something that happened. It actively connects Jewish people across time and space, reinforces their shared identity, this sense of belonging that goes beyond generations.
It's not just a history lesson. It's about strengthening a network.
Exactly. And that act of remembering, retelling the story year after year, that keeps that shared reality alive.
Wow, that's incredible. From carrier pigeons to Passover cedars, I'm seeing how information and stories are way more intertwined than I ever realized.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And it actually leads us to another thread Harari pulls on, bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy. Okay, not usually my favorite topic, I'll be honest. How's that fit into this whole information network thing?
Think of bureaucracy as like the operating system, right? For big, complex networks. Governments, religions, huge companies, They need systems to manage information, keep things running smoothly.
Okay, that makes sense. But bureaucracy doesn't exactly have the best reputation, does it? Seems like people are always complaining about it.
True. It can be slow, clunky, impersonal. But Harari points out it exists for a reason, keeping order in a large, messy network.
So it's a necessary evil kind of thing.
Maybe, but not evil in itself, just, imperfect. One tension he talks about is this balance between order and truth.
What do you mean by that?
Well, to make order, bureaucracy simplifies things. Categories, hierarchies, procedures. And sometimes that simplification can distort the truth a little, miss some nuances.
Okay, I can see that happening. What's an example?
Harari talks about early attempts to classify, like all of nature, scientifically. They wanted those neat categories, but nature's not always so neat.
It's definitely not. Always changing and evolving, so too much focus on order there would kind of backfire.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Flawed as it can be, bureaucracy can be a force for good.
Really? Okay, I'm listening, because so far it just sounds like paperwork and headaches.
He uses the 1854 London cholera outbreak. Nobody knew the cause. People were dying left and right. But this physician, John Snow, he starts meticulously tracking everything. Who gets sick, where they live, all the data.
Like a data detective.
Exactly. And because he's so thorough, he spots a pattern. It's all linked to a contaminated water pump.
So bureaucracy, in that case, literally saved lives.
Exactly. Imposing order on chaos, analyzing data carefully, they found a solution. It's a double-edged sword, this bureaucracy. Powerful, but needs watching.
Okay, so from storytelling to bureaucracy, what happens when we throw computers into the mix?
Yes. Now, this is where it gets really relevant to us today. Computers changed the game. It's not just bureaucrats anymore, it's algorithms.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about the shift.
Think about how much is run by algorithms now. The info we see online, product recommendations, even financial decisions impacting, entire economies.
It's true, we probably don't even realize how much influence they have.
And with that comes huge opportunity, but also big challenges. Harari talks about how algorithms can be used for manipulation, for control.
Okay, yeah, that does sound kind of ominous. What's an example of that?
He talks about the Rohingya genocide in Myanmar. Social media algorithms, they didn't just recommend inflammatory content, they autoplayed it. People were constantly exposed to hate speech, fueling the violence.
It's awful. So even if an algorithm isn't made to cause harm, if it's not designed right, the consequences can be really bad.
That's right. And it's a problem because these algorithms, they're often a black box. We don't know exactly how they work, why they make the choices they do.
Right, like this mysterious process, data in, decisions out. Feels like we're losing control over the very systems we created.
It's a valid concern. And Harari goes deep on this, especially with AI getting more and more powerful.
AI, right? It's what everyone's talking about. What does Harari say about AI and all of this?
He argues that we're at this turning point where AI could actually become smarter than us, create what he calls a silicon curtain, separating us from our own technology.
Silicon curtain. Sounds like something straight out of sci-fi.
Might sound far-fetched, but the point is, we're building things so complex, we might not be able to grasp them long-term.
So it's not so much robots taking over, but more about unintended consequences, right? The things we can't predict about our own inventions. And what does that mean for something like democracy? Can it even survive in a world increasingly run by these algorithms we don't fully get?
The million-dollar question, and that's exactly what we'll dig into as we continue with Harari's analysis.
So we're talking about algorithms reshaping our world, maybe even outsmarting us someday? Kind of scary, honestly. But you said before how bureaucracy helped solve that cholera outbreak. Could AI, even with its risks, actually make democracy stronger?
It's the big question, right? And Harari actually thinks it could. He says AI could make government way more transparent. Imagine it analyzing tons of data, finding corruption or waste that humans miss.
Like a digital watchdog, keeping an eye on things.
Exactly. And not just that, it could make government more responsive to what people actually need. AI could track social media, local news, service requests, all of it, to spot trends, problems that need attention.
That would be amazing. Instead of waiting for a crisis, governments could get ahead of things, be more proactive.
Exactly. And this ties into another benefit, helping people participate more in democracy itself.
Okay, now that's interesting. How would AI help with that?
Picture this, an AI platform. It gives you personalized info on candidates, on policies, even local meetings, all tailored to your interests.
So no more generic campaign stuff. I'd get what's actually relevant to me, filtered out from all the noise.
Precisely. Staying informed would be way easier, especially for people who don't have a ton of time to figure out how it all works.
This all sounds great, but I still kind of feel cautiously optimistic, you know? Like, it depends on us using AI responsibly, right?
Exactly. Because along with those potential benefits come real risks. Harari doesn't sugarcoat that.
Right, we got to talk about those risks. What could go wrong with AI and democracy?
Well, we've mentioned some manipulation, those black box algorithms losing control. But a big one is AI making inequality worse, even creating a new kind of colonialism.
Digital colonialism. Okay, haven't heard that one before. What is that?
Think about how European powers colonized places, right? Taking resources, exploiting people. Now imagine powerful countries or corporations using AI to control data instead.
So instead of land or labor, they're after data.
Exactly. Harari gives an example. A Silicon Valley company uses data from poorer countries to train its AI, then sells that AI back to those same countries, often for a lot of money.
Wow. So they're basically taking something that's not theirs, turning it into a product, and profiting off the people they took it from.
That's the idea. And it creates this cycle where the data rich get richer and everyone else falls behind.
That's really disturbing. Like, we could repeat the same mistakes of history, just in a digital way.
It's a real risk, and it means we need to completely rethink how we approach technology and development.
Okay, so what can we even do about this? How do we prevent that kind of future where a few powerful players control AI and everyone else is stuck?
Harari says it takes a multi-pronged approach. First, global cooperation is key. Like with climate change, it's a problem that needs everyone on board.
So no more tech nationalism. Countries working together to make sure AI is developed ethically.
Yes. It can't be about winning. It's about AI being a tool to help everyone.
I like that. But cooperation isn't enough, right? We also need to make sure everyone has a chance to actually benefit from AI.
Absolutely. This means investing in education, especially in developing countries, closing that digital divide so people have the skills to thrive in this new economy.
So it's not just about rules for tech companies, but empowering people to be part of shaping AI's future.
Exactly. A more equitable world where everyone benefits from AI's potential.
This has been amazing. We've gone from the history of information to the future of AI. As we wrap up, what's the one thing you hope listeners take away from this deep dive?
Hope. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all this, but we still have choices to make.
We have agency, as Harari would say.
Yes. We decide what the future looks like. It's not set in stone.
So it's on all of us to stay informed, to speak up, and to create a future where AI is a force for good, not just for a select few.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Such a great conversation. Huge thanks to you and to our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and most importantly, keep the conversation going.